Again, I'm 44, so like I skipped the whole part where we learned how to do all that. I didn't grow up with a phone. So to think that I could learn all that and then to be offered a job by somebody I looked up to who really coined the phrase accidental entrepreneur for me, I was like, that's exactly what I was. And that's the thing about entrepreneurship is you can ingest, but if you don't start testing things and integrating it in and being consistent and checking the data and doing all of that other stuff, which doesn't sound very sexy and sounds like a grind and a hustle, it is. You know, that transition was really tough because I didn't realize how attached I would be to the identity of the term salon owner. When people would ask me what I did afterwards, I didn't know what to say. And so there was like a real identity death, loss, shift that had to happen for me to be able to no longer lead with, I am a salon owner.
So Jessica, thanks for being here.
I'm so excited.
For those people that doesn't know you, give me like a little background. What do you do? How do you help people?
Let's sum up 25 years of my entrepreneurial experience in under 60 seconds. I think I might be able to do it.
Let's do it.
So I went to beauty school when I was 19, got in there thinking about being an entrepreneur, but not really with the mindset of what it took to be an entrepreneur. I just wanted to make my own schedule, wanted to create freedom, do something I loved. So that was like the start of my journey. Looking back, I was totally an accidental entrepreneur. I didn't understand really what it took to run your own business. I wanted to do the thing that I wanted to do, right? Cut hair, hang out with cool people. But I didn't really understand the business behind it all. And so about 10 years in and a lot of great mentors that I didn't really realize were true mentors, you know, now we call them coaches, people we find online, things that we do. I had a lot of that. So I was really lucky in learning to take the skill set that everybody told me wasn't a real career, right? Doing hair 25 years ago wasn't really like the thing. It was kind of the thing you did when you couldn't figure out what you wanted to do. So I had a stigma kind of against me, which pushed me, you know, that prove it mentality of like, I'll show them. And so that really helped propel my career into hitting six figures early on in my business, not understanding that everybody else wasn't doing that too. So I think sometimes when I look back over my career, I didn't realize that the consistency and the success that I had came from my work ethic, from my ability to focus on one thing and do it really, really well, right? What we call now niching down. I didn't think, I wasn't using those terminologies. I was 20, 22 years old, didn't realize I had a choice. I was like, you chose this thing, go all in. And so that led me down the path of really understanding the difference between how I showed up and gave a client experience and what I did that was different than the person next to me who was struggling even to make ends meet. We called the break room like the minimum wage room. Because there was a difference between those of us who could actually create a business, sustain six figures, not feel burnt out, and then those who could barely make ends meet in the industry. And so I quickly realized there was a huge differentiating in any industry of like those who took things seriously and those who just kind of toe dipped into something and waited for something to come to them. And so all along I was learning these life lessons, these entrepreneurial lessons, which have now paid me dividends later in my 40s and having the multiple different businesses I have now. But getting into the beauty industry taught me literally everything. It taught me how to communicate with people, how to really understand and listen. If you don't listen well and you do something wrong on someone's hair, you can't take that back. Like that's not a oops, let me fix that. That's a I'm so sorry, I hope you come back and you don't tell everybody that I effed your hair up. But what I realized is I created great relationships in that business. And I learned to make people feel seen. I learned to really communicate and give more than what they were coming to get. And so in business, we want to, you know, undersell but over deliver.
Right.
That's always the thing that I've noticed is don't over promise and then under deliver. The opposite works so much better for you in any business.
Right.
And so taking all of those skills, all of that knowledge, I hit a point in my career where my son was about, I want to say 8 or 9 years old. And I started to miss a lot of the things in his life. I started to miss going to the after school soccer practices or the weekend things. My mom was getting to do that because she was babysitting. And I was busy working 9 to 9 still, you know, and
This is during your hair?
This is my hair career still. And in those first 15 years, I dabbled in a few other things. I became a personal trainer because I got really heavily into fitness. You know, because after high school, I didn't have anything to put that energy into, that fitness energy into. And after working with people all day, you need somewhere for that energy to go, right?
Yeah.
You need to do something and you need to have something of your own. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, I was giving. And yes, I was collecting money, but I also wasn't fully fulfilled. And so somewhere in my mid-20s, I found out about bodybuilding and figure competitions. And in that, I was able to start working with great trainers. I stepped on stage for the first time right before I had my son, won my first competition.
Wow.
Again, focusing on one thing, doing it as best as you could with the best teacher or mentor that you could find. And so I kind of partnered those businesses, and I got a lot of clients from behind the chair to come personal train with me. So that was my first taste of like diversifying my income, but also capitalizing on the clients that I already had. What other service could I provide to the people I'd already worked so hard to acquire, right? So you have a book of 200 clients. What else are they interested in? Well, when I started to get fit, they were like, what are you doing? So it's almost like that lead by example. I was like, oh shit, I was an influencer 15 years ago before I even knew what influencers were. Yeah. But they see you doing something and they ask you about it. And when people start asking you for something and you can solve that problem, you've created a business, right? Can I get paid on that thing? Can I create some content around that? Can I drive traffic to it? So that was kind of like an accidental second business that I started in that. But again, fast forward to the pain point that got me to the online space. That's where things really started to change, because I realized if I kept doing what I was currently doing, I wasn't ever going to probably make much more than I was making at that point. I couldn't create more time. I hadn't read Buy Back Your Time yet by Dan Martell. Shout out to Dan. I didn't realize that I could take a skill set that was a literal in-person thing and turn it into some sort of online business. I had no clue. And so that's when I had my first taste of who knows something I don't know that could help me get into the online space. I joined my first business mastermind. We're going long story short, long story long here. But that cost me about $8,000 to join this business mastermind, where I really didn't know what I was going to get out of it. All I knew is that these people probably knew a lot more about online than I did, because I knew nothing. And so when you don't know, you don't know. You go in with an open mind. I really had zero expectations. I just really hoped that I'd meet some high-level people who were open to having these big, wild, crazy dreams and talk about them like I was. Because in my current space and environment, nobody was talking about doing anything other than hair, which was fine, right? They were focused. But I needed to be in rooms where people were having other conversations so I could see what else was possible. And I couldn't even tell you that I had the forethought then to apply all the skills that I had learned into something. I just knew I wanted to know what else I could do and how else I could create a bigger impact that wasn't just one-to-one with my hair clients. So that's how it all kind of got started. Dream Salon fell in my lap in that 6-month container of that mastermind. Opened my first salon within 4 weeks of finding the space. Built a team of 5 people, and within 6 months, COVID.
Wow.
Salon was shut down. Our local governor told us we could work on the street. I was pissed off enough, and I think the pain point drove the fear away of wanting to start the podcast, which I had wanted to start for about 2 years. A lot of my online mentors had started podcasts, but I was like, who am I to start a podcast? I'm quote unquote just a hairdresser, for any of those listening, air quotes. We know that feeling when we've maybe done something for a really long time and we identify solely as that. You sometimes think you're not qualified to do something else, like say a podcast. And I hadn't really started listening to too many podcasts at that point, but I had bought a microphone 2 years prior that was like collecting dust. And I'm like, if you don't start now, when are you going to start? So I had this beautiful salon that was open and empty. One of my new clients was a videographer, and he was like, hey, I'll help you start. So we started messy. Let me just tell you, just because you know video doesn't mean you know audio. Okay? So if anybody feels like they need to be perfect to start a podcast, please go back and watch my first 25 episodes. In my salon. They are terrible. The audio's trash. But you know what? You see a version of me that I hardly recognize, because she was just willing to start talking and interviewing people in the industry who were also hurting because the salon was closed. And I wanted to give them a voice. I felt like it was my way to create an impact around something that wasn't just about me. It wasn't like, what's this going to do for me? What's this business going to do for me? It was like, how can I help the people that I love in an industry that's hurting right now? And so that pain point got me out of my own way, out of the fear of like turning the microphone on and just starting. And so within the first couple of weeks, I asked my mentor, who was the founder of that mastermind, to come on the show. And at the end of the interview, I said, hey, you know, you should start like a coaching program for those of us who go through, because I'd love to become a coach like in your world. And he's like, well, I don't offer that, but we actually started having support coaches inside the following rounds of the mastermind. Would you like to be one? And so it was my first opportunity to step into a space that I didn't feel qualified. He was I looked up to him, like he wants me to coach inside his program. I thought, what an honor. But he reminded me, you don't have to be me. You just have to come with the skill set you have. You've been through the program. You know the language. These people are where you were a year ago. You can help them. And so it gave me the confidence and the belief, but I would have never had that opportunity had I not put myself into the room and paid to be in that mastermind. I had no idea that was going to be the ROI, right? Everyone in the room was talking about these 10K months and scaling their offers and funnels and email lists. And I was like, what is this language you are speaking? Yeah. I use a paper book still to book my clients. Like I was like 1999, I hadn't caught up to the world of anything tech. Again, I'm 44. So like I skipped the whole part where we learned how to do all that. I didn't grow up with a phone. So to think that I could learn all that and then to be offered a job by somebody I looked up to who really coined the phrase accidental entrepreneur for me, I was like, that's exactly what I was when I started out. And that's what so many people are when they say, I want to start a business. They don't understand everything that goes into entrepreneurship. And at no fault of their own. I wish I was a little bit more ignorant when it comes to what all you have to do, because at times it is so overwhelming. I think back to the old days of when all I did was focus on my hair clients. Yeah, it was easier, but there was a cap on my potential. There was a cap on the time I could spend doing it. And so now I've opened up so many doors by starting that podcast, evolving into who I've become 5 years later, 350 episodes in. Like you become a different person.
Right.
And I've had so many amazing conversations with guests like we're doing right now where I've gotten to learn so much for free. I've gotten to network my face off by creating real relationships with people behind the podcast. It's created other opportunities that are very similar to that one I got coaching with them, which I did for a few seasons. I mean, so many things have parlayed me into what I'm able to do now, which is help people start their podcasts and help create visibility for them if they're afraid to be seen. Right? Because most of us are okay behind the camera or helping out or doing something or kind of sort of showing up on social. But when you put a microphone in front of somebody, I mean, that's where you have the ability to build true thought leadership, really create what I consider like a brand accelerator. If you're trying to build a personal brand, your podcast can be such a great top of funnel, lead magnet, network connector. Like I can speak to that 10 times over, which is why I lead with it now. Right. You know what I mean? So that's the backstory. And that's how we got to where we are now, which I own Creative House, which is a creative, I call it a playground. I created everything I wished existed in one space. So I have my podcast studio in there. We shoot content. I have a videographer, a house photographer in there, and I get to do hair and makeup clients as well.
That's so, like, I mean, I've been to the space. It was really cool.
You have. You've been one of the speakers at a series of events that we created called the Entrepreneur Success Series. So I met a local girl. Her name's Jamie. Shout out to Jamie. And
She's awesome.
We met at a Girlfriends in Business event by Lori Harder. She was the wife of the other mentor who started that mastermind. And she would do these one-day women's events. And in the room, there about 75 people in the room, and a couple people were like, oh, do you know Jamie? Oh, Jamie, you got to meet Jessica. So they put us together because we're San Diego girls.
Yeah.
And so we started meeting up for coffee here in town. We started talking about how cool would it be if we could create a network where we could bring people to us, because both of us had pretty big networks that were actually outside of San Diego. And we wanted to make networking a little different. We wanted it to be like a mini mastermind night, not so high ticket, a little bit more fun of a networking group. And we just wanted to see what it would look like to kind of partner and work together. She's in the ad space. Her specialty is Instagram, Facebook ads, and mine is people. I'm a people person. I'm a connector. They call me the plug. If anybody needs to know anything, they're like, oh, Jessica knows a person. You should call her. You know, I love that. You know, when you've lived in San Diego over 30, your whole life, right? 44 years, I've been in the industry.
You kind of know people.
I kind of know people. I know at least I know somebody who knows somebody. You know what I mean? So I think when we sat down to figure out what we wanted to create, we were like, hey, let's not toe dip. Let's put 6 of these on the calendar. That's 6 months of us showing up consistently. Let's build a brand around this. Let's drive traffic to it. Of course, she ran some ads to it. And let's bring in local entrepreneurs to share one cheat code, we wanted to call it, like of success, in order for the people in the room to leave feeling like they could do one thing when they left. That was going to maybe move the needle in their life or business. And so those were great. We ran those for 6 months. We took a little break, and we have our next one coming up in August. So we'll see where that goes. But it's like that whole try it, see if you like it. It's okay to partner and collab with people. It might not be your end all be all forever business or business partnership, but it's going to lead you to the next thing that's going to help you figure out which direction you want to go, which way you want to take your brand, who you want to really be working with. are people who they say they are,
Right.
all of it.
Right. That's also fascinating. And your story, I mean, was over 15 years in like the salon and hair industry.
Yeah.
You mentioned this term, accidental entrepreneur. So what is the difference between an accidental entrepreneur and then the entrepreneur that you know as a definition today?
I think there's so many people who got into maybe a trade or a skill or who were interested in something or who maybe even have some sort of side hustle and they're not really thinking of themselves as an entrepreneur. They're maybe just looking for a second stream of income or they're looking for a way to do something creative that fills their soul even though they have a well-paid 9-to-5 that they like and they want to keep. Right? We don't consider people who have a quote 9-to-5 or who are technically an employee an entrepreneur. But so many people have creative entrepreneurial spirits. Not everybody has to monetize that entrepreneurial spirit or dream or goal or thing. But if you do decide to do that, that's when you become an entrepreneur. So whether or not you meant to sign up for the entrepreneurship world, you now are one. And so that's the difference between being an accidental one, going in with, oh, well, we'll see what happens, to intentionality of what is it going to take for me to build this? Who do I need to meet? It's not always like the how, right? We can figure out the how. Hello, we've got ChatGPT, we got our phones, we've got so many resources. YouTube University like can teach you anything in a couple of hours.
Right.
You go to Brandon's page, you're going to learn so much, right? I sit and watch your videos and I'm like, learn something new. Now I have to go implement it. And that's the thing about entrepreneurship is you can ingest, but if you don't start testing things and integrating it in and being consistent and checking the data and doing all of that other stuff, which doesn't sound very sexy and sounds like a grind and a hustle, it is. It's like anything. But standing behind the chair was a grind and a hustle, right? Getting my clients happy, doing the same thing every day, same haircut, same color, seeing everybody every 6-8 weeks. Like, talk about consistency. Talk about doing the same thing over and over till you're so good you could do it in your sleep. Most people want to quit and give up before they're really good at something or they can do it with their eyes closed.
Yeah.
You know, I've watched you build your brand and the way you show up for your clients and the way you guys get creative in helping position people so they're known for them, not just what they do.
Right.
Because, you know, even Junpei, he's a great example. I love him.
He's awesome.
You brought him to one of the events. Shout out to one of their clients. He's so willing to show up and be authentic and share who he is that people just love him. And so when they think about a real estate agent, that's what he does. I think of him as like the guy who knows all the great, Japanese restaurants in town. You know what I mean? Because Brandon creatively thought of ways to like, what else do you love? Or what else would you want to create a video about? Because when I think about you, I'm going to call my favorite real estate agent. I don't need a house sold yet, but I want to know what restaurant to go to. But my friend, when I'm at that restaurant having dinner, mentions that he wants to sell his house, I'm going to talk about him. And that's where we can create content that's outside of the box that people like Brandon literally have that brain to do. I'm more of like a follow the rules. You have this brain that's just like, and I'm like, yes, teach me more.
It's like the artist scatterbrain, you know what I mean?
But it's so beautiful. And it's why people who get into entrepreneurship, they get stuck in boxes or who get frustrated doing the same thing, need people like you and what you guys are creating so that we can be seen in different ways and can have fun making content, not just feel like it's a grind.
Right.
Because when you got someone holding your hand, giving you ideas, guiding you, man, it's so much more fun.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think from our experience, like, you know, if you look at the traditional world, I mean, originally I wanted to get into Hollywood, right? Like you get.
That does not surprise me. You are so Hollywood. Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
I was like, the plan was to move to LA. I'm stuck here because I love here. You know what I mean? I love it.
Same.
But it takes a whole team to make something like a really cool thing happen, right? Like in here, like we're currently recording in the studio, we have people like that are working behind the scenes to make sure it happens, right? And I think you brought up a really good point there because I just spoke to my team this morning about the how we can figure it out right now. We have ChatGPT. So it's not the how that is limiting us. It's literally like our human brain that is our mindset, or however they want to call it, that stops us from doing what it is that we wanted to do. Which kind of like brought me into that time. You said you got out of this mastermind, or you finished this mastermind and you started your salon like, 6-9 months before 2020 happened. What was walk me through that mentality that you went in, like when that happened. How did you feel and how did you overcome that?
Well, what's funny is we can have a dream for so long. And this was like God's way of showing me you waited too long. Your window has passed. And it also gave me a very small, beautiful window to learn that I don't like to manage people. I love people. I don't want to have to manage people. And when you go from being one of them to the boss, right? When I worked in the big salon I was at for 10 years, I was one of them. I was on even playing ground with my peers. Maybe I made more money, but I wasn't the boss. And so that changes that dynamic in a business when you now become the CEO or the boss. These people worked for me in my space. And so I wasn't one of them. And I miss that. I miss having that camaraderie. Even though I think I built really great culture in the space, I think that was just enough of a window. Because again, we were open for 6 months, closed for probably 3 or 4, right? Till we got to reopen. I rebuilt the team. I felt really good about it. We were back in the green. And I had an opportunity where a past girlfriend of mine had come and she wanted to start working there. And we started talking and I said, I knew she had owned a salon in the Bay Area. She worked here, then she left and she came back. And I said to her, I had a download. I feel like, those God winks, those moments where you're like, would you ever be interested in owning again? And she said, yeah. Do you want to sell? And I said, I didn't until right this second. I said, I waited 15 years to open this dream salon space, and it's literally everything I would want. It's small, it's 5 chairs, it's manageable, it could create great, passive income. But I think I would love to see what else is out there for me. It felt like the next step, right? Like I had been gifted that opportunity to coach inside that mastermind. There were so many other things I wanted to explore that even though I knew I would be giving up something that I felt like was my biggest dream and goal at the time, we often can't see what's waiting for us next if we're so attached to the thing we think was going to be the end all be all. It's like when someone goes to hand you something, but your hands are so full, you can't take it. You're like, oh yeah, I want that too, but I still have to hold this. It's like the literal visual of that. And so the salon felt like my hands were really full. And so by selling the salon, which I did for profit, a pretty good clip, I was able to still work in there a couple days a week in the salon that I created with a woman that I respected. And I did that for several months until I went off to open my own space down the hall, essentially. We're in a loft space downtown San Diego. And so when I opened Creative House, I wanted to do it differently. I wanted to build something that felt like it was a piece of me, but that could include other people and all the aspects of content and my brand that was just different. And I didn't really have a clear business plan or an idea of what it would turn into. But I think knowing that I could take the next right step and bring people along the journey with me and figure it out as I went, because I had kind of seen that happen in that container with the other people in the mastermind, I saw that it was possible. And once you see that something's possible for somebody else, it expands your belief of what's possible for yourself. And so you start to think, well, maybe I could do that. That's why we love aspirational content on social media, right? We're like, she seems normal and kind of like me. Maybe I could do that too. And so that's the belief that I had to borrow from other people in order to think I could create a business on my terms that didn't really exist yet. It was always like niche, niche, niche. And I'm like, I am the niche. I am the authentic version of me when I'm able to do these things. Wouldn't it be cool if I could create a space where that's what I did? And so that's how the evolution of being able to sell the business, the pain point, the idea of letting something go. I mean, it was all a struggle. People weren't quite ready to come back into the space so soon. So, the beauty industry really struggled for the longest time. And I think it still does at times because a lot of people left big salons and went open small spaces, which isn't part of the culture of hair, at least not from when I started. It was about community and collaboration and getting to look over to the person next to you to see the cool haircut they were doing, or the girl down the hall that was, doing wild colors that you didn't have a client base like that, but you look over and you were so inspired, I didn't have that anymore. I had to start looking for that online. I had to start bringing it into my world by inviting people into my space rather than just getting it for free in my space when I worked in the old salon. So, that transition was really tough because I didn't realize how attached I would be to the identity of the term salon owner. When people would ask me what I did afterwards, I didn't know what to say. And so there was like a real identity death, loss, shift that had to happen for me to be able to no longer lead with, I am a salon owner. Because that holds weight, especially in my industry. When you say you own a business, people understand, I own a plumbing company, I own a whatever. We're like, cool, you're an owner, you're a founder, you're an entrepreneur. There's a level of respect that even if your business is in the red, we still think they're of importance. And so getting into the online space and then saying, well, I'm an online business coach, or I'm a strategist, or I help people X, it felt so foreign to me to kind of start with the sales side of things and then forget about marketing. I wasn't going to show up and talk about what I did.
Right.
So then I was like the best kept secret for the longest time, because when I launched my first course for entrepreneurs in the beauty industry, it was called the 6-Figure Stylist. And it sold to nobody because I was too scared to show up online. You know, even though I kind of had the podcast, I was still hiding behind the episodes. I was still hiding behind interviews. I wasn't really talking about who I was and my expertise because I couldn't see my value at the time. I couldn't see the skill sets that I had gained because I just thought I was like everybody else. This is what everybody does. This is normal. But then I thought about it over the years, and after many different exercises and different coaching programs where we had to sit down and literally write out everything we've created, the businesses we've built in and of itself, right? I created a multi-6-figure business while others didn't. How did I do it? How did I sustain that amount of, generating that kind of income in an industry that at the time, 15, 20 years ago, that wasn't normal? And then how do I get the mindset of my people, my beauty industry at the time, to understand that the 6-figure stylist wasn't just $100,000. I'm like, y'all, $999,000 is still 6 figures. Right. So those of you who are stuck on the I already make 6 figures, I don't need your course. I'm like, guys, this is a mindset course around stepping into who you want to become and how much money you potentially can make if you took this even more serious. And so that's where I learned about my industry. When they talk about doing market research and they talk about what do your people need, what are they willing to pay for, I had to really dig in and be new again and start to do that market research, so I then knew what to talk about on the podcast, so I could bring in my ideal clients who did want to go through the course and the program. So again, the visibility piece,
right?
Showing up and marketing it. Because I was like, a great podcast, but nobody knew it existed. Nobody knew the course existed. And so I kind of did things backwards. I should have started the podcast first. I should have started talking on social media first, polling my audience, talking to people that were close to me. What would help you? What could I create that would be of value to you? I didn't do any of that. I was like, this is what I think they need. Let me just make it.
Yeah.
When we create things that we think people need, we're probably going to miss the mark. If you create something that a very, very close past version of you needed, and you know those people and you're connected to that industry, it may do better. But asking people truly what they need and what they want, and if that's something you feel excited to share or create, run. You know what I mean? So the podcast is giving me the ability to figure out what my listeners like, what they don't like. I can see the downloads. You liked that episode, you didn't. You started sharing it, or nobody shared that episode. So it's a good testing ground too. But all that to say, like, it's been a huge adjustment to stepping into the online space, then really figuring out who I want to serve and in what way.
Yeah, you kind of like went from that in-person one-on-one to online, and now you're back in person again. Do you still have that component of the digital, like online stuff right now? Right.
So we launched a media agency called Media Unscripted for all of my potential podcasters who went through the Start Your Damn Podcast course. Yeah. So after the 6-Figure Stylist, I moved into the podcast space. I launched a media agency called Media Unscripted, where we help people with management, help them launch their shows. And what I learned through that process was someone was like, all right, I'm ready. Here's my money. Take my money. Let's go. I want to get my show started. Well, me as the strategist and kind of your business coach, I would sit down with these people and they would have no clear idea of their branding, no idea what we were driving traffic to, no idea what they really wanted to talk about as far as content. Some of them had an idea. Maybe it was mom stuff. Maybe it was entrepreneur stuff. Maybe it was personal development. Some people just wanted to talk. And all that can be fine. A podcast can be a great hobby, but don't have any expectations on downloads or monetizing or any of that, right? Because if you don't have intentionality on a business that you're building, which is essentially could be your podcast, it won't go anywhere and it won't give you, quote unquote, what you might hope it will, meaning brand sponsorships or lots of downloads or people sharing your stuff. When people see the title of an episode, they want to know they're going to get that title. They're going to get the 3 ways to XYZ, or they're going to laugh, or they're going to cry, or you're going to tell them some, crazy reality TV story, whatever your podcast is about. So in doing that, I was like, okay, this is like pulling teeth, because people would pay the money, say they wanted to do it, but they couldn't follow through. And then we couldn't get episodes out of them. So unlike a social media management company where I could create you social media graphics or something out of nothing, I can't make you a good podcaster. I can't make you show up. I can't make you record the content. I can't make it valuable. I can't make you sound differently. And so I was like, I need to teach people how to be better podcasters, but I actually want to skip to the part where people are already podcasting. And so fast forward a couple years later, we still offer management, but you have to either have already started your show or are willing to just full on like give us your first 4 episodes with your trailer, have a brand book already in place, and then we'll take you on as a client. So now we have kind of like a baseline of who we'll work with, which you learn as you go when you're building a business, who you want to work with and who you don't, all trial and error. And then I created the Unscripted Podcast Network, which is a community for female podcasters. So I learned in all the masterminds I've been in that there was usually one missing through line, that we might all be entrepreneurs, but in so many different ways. So I was like, what if I created what I called a community membership, but it was really a mastermind for female podcasters. So the only requirement is that you're a podcaster. Your podcast is live on Apple or you're about to drop it this week. So that we can be in collaboration with each other, potentially network, potentially have some sort of sisterhood in there where you can cross collab, pitch each other on each other's shows, run ads on each other's shows, you know, or you really can just be in there to have accountability, because often as entrepreneurs working from home, you're solo. You're staring at the computer screen by yourself. You're not always in the studio like this with your boys behind the camera. Like, you're doing that shit by yourself. And it gets lonely and it gets hard. And as a woman too, we go like this all month long and I'm waving my hand up and down because you're 4 different people in a month. Sometimes you don't want to create content. Other times you want to batch that out. So I teach all of that strategy and kind of, you know, tangible shit inside the community where everybody really wants to grow and scale their show. We just kicked that off about 3 months ago. So we have a guest speaker that comes every month.
Love that.
Think Entrepreneur Success Series, but online for podcasters. So I knew I wanted to keep some in-person components. And so we still have those. And then I knew that in order to really reach and grow at scale, my community is all over the country. So I knew I had to create something for them as well. And podcasting is still like something I'm super passionate about, something I feel like I'm a few years ahead of a lot of people, right? 350 episodes in, I probably guested on another 150 plus. I feel like I'm expert enough to talk about it. And so I think when you put enough skin in the game, you try a few things on for size, you test market with people, see is this something you might be interested in? You get a few founders in there, you find some great affiliates who are passionate about what you're also creating, you gift them a few free memberships, they start talking about it, we got some ripple going, we're doing good. It's pretty cool. So we got a little bit of both.
That's awesome. What are the different ways you can make money out of a podcast?
Ooh, that's a great one. So that's the first question most people always ask when they do come and say they want to start. My question back to them is, what do you sell?
Let's say I have a service.
Right. So they'll lead with that. I sell X. Wonderful. We're going to talk about that and lead people through your content to that service. You're going to teach them why they need it, how to utilize it. You're going to bring on other guests who are going to re-emphasize why what you sell is so important. You might even partner and collab with people who do the same thing as you. So you're talking to like audiences. We're going to get you guesting on other people's shows who do the same thing as you. So you're in front of their audience as well. And we're just going to try to drive traffic to the thing that you sell, to your service. But by giving free value on your podcast, you're doing what the marketers say. You're giving your best stuff away for free. And when people hear a podcast episode from you and they learn something, they're like, I just learned that for free. That was amazing. Like the thing you popped up the other day and you did that whole YouTube video on that AI and all that. I was like, what would it look like to work with Brandon? He just gave me so much for free through this video. I bet if I worked with him, I'd learn 10 times as much stuff. And so you want to really set the tone and you want to give value before you ask for somebody's dollar. So that's how a podcast can be a huge revenue stream for people. Once you get going, once you get kicking with things, if you're passionate and excited, you already have a true service, you can reach out to brands and do collabs. You can reach out to other podcasters who might want to run ads on your show for paid, right? You can cross collab and not have any exchange of money where you get a free ad on someone, like I can get an ad on your show, you get an ad on my show, we do a little collab there. I don't sell what you sell, you don't sell what I sell. That's a beautiful partnership. I truly believe in what you do, you believe in what I do. That's real authentic strategic partnerships. As far as monetizing, if you love selling other things that you affiliate for, I love talking about the 2 network marketing companies that I'm a part of. People don't like network marketing, cringe, whatever. I don't care. I talk about it on my show, take it or leave it. You have that little fast forward button if you don't want to hear the ad. There you go.
Yeah.
So I just take notes from the guys who are doing it big and the ladies who have multiple ads on their shows. Some of them I listen to the ads. Some of them I skip through because I don't need it. But if I listen to, let's say, one of my favorite podcasters, Emma Creed, she has several different ads on her show. She's a mom. She's got 4 kids. She partnered with a meal prep service. That makes sense. That's aligned. She talks about a few other things. My girlfriend, Lori Harder, she has a podcast called Earn Your Happy, over 65 million downloads at this point. She's one of my biggest mentors. She tried all sorts of ads on her podcast. She would talk about socks. She would talk about this, talk about that. And I felt like that feels a little off, but she was trying. She was testing out ads and she got a lot of flack on her reviews for her podcast about how, your podcast used to be so great. You never had ads and now you're a sellout and you have ads on your show. But any true entrepreneur would never say that on a review because they realize this is all a business and we can only do so much shit for free for so long.
Pay your bill somehow.
Right. And you can make a 6-figure business out of just having a podcast. So if you want to create, the Joe Rogans, we've got so many people who all they do is podcast. But I think the best way to make money with your podcast is to drive traffic to a product or service either you or somebody else has. I love affiliating for other people's stuff that I don't do what they do. My girlfriend's a human design expert. She has a course on that, so I'm an affiliate for her. I have another friend who does funnels. She has a mastermind for that. I get a 50% affiliate for her. So I pepper those in organically in conversations that make sense throughout the podcast, or if it's a traditional ad that they paid for a 30-second spot that they have a script they want me to read, I'll add that in. But I try to give a lot of episodes where there's not really any ads other than talking about my own stuff.
Right.
Because you really should be driving traffic to your own things.
Like your own product.
Absolutely.
Or whatever it is that you do.
Yeah.
Let's say for a lot of creators out there, right? Like I watch a lot of like Diary of the CEO, Joe Rogan, some of those. If your goal is, well, it might be intimidating sometimes in the beginning when you might not get listens, or how do you recommend somebody to get discovered or get reach when it comes to podcasts? Because it's a little bit different than the type of content that we do, right? Like the type of content that I do, a lot of shorts, like you pull out something, you can get 1,000 views just like that, right? Or you can get something like 3 million views, just like, oh, look, that was like a 5 minutes. How do you get discovered on a podcast if you have one?
I feel like Brandon's setting me up to sell his service right now because
I'm not.
But that's exactly what you need. He didn't even know he just set me up good because what you need is good marketing. You can be the best podcaster. You can have the world's greatest guests on your show, but if you haven't built a strong social media and you don't get a lot of views on your social media because you don't show up or you're not putting out consistent content, no one's going to know about your podcast episode. Nobody. Maybe the 10 people you privately DM to it, and then you'll get the same 10 downloads on your show, and then you'll probably feel like it's not worth it because no one's listening. But if you do marketing correctly, you can literally put out 2 episodes a month, drive mad traffic to those 2 episodes, and get tens of thousands of downloads on those shows. It's not always about quantity over quality. It's about quality and quantity sometimes. But the marketing piece, some of my greatest friends who market their shows have no video on their podcast. They sit and record 4 to 5 episodes a week. Matt Gottesman, he's one of my favorite podcasters. His podcast is called The Niche Is You. Matt records 4 to 5 episodes a week. He sits down on Sundays and records like 3 episodes and then midweek another 2. So I think he's putting out 5 right now. They're usually no more than 20 minutes. They get posted on Apple and Spotify, anywhere else you can find podcasts. And then separately, he batches out video content that directly speaks to his audience that isn't a clip from the podcast. It's concentrated video content, just like we're doing right here, or how you do with your clients. And that's the stuff that goes quote unquote viral, that drives traffic to the episodes. Because underneath in the captions, he'll say, I talk more about this on episode blah, blah, blah. Go listen to it. Versus him always having to be on camera, especially for those ladies, if you don't want to always have to get ready, or if you care about having the right lighting and being in studio, this costs money. You can sit literally with your microphone, and these days Apple makes great products. You can literally sit in your closet, in your car. You can record 3 or 4 episodes when you're on fire, feeling just juiced up about a topic. Put that out. That could be your whole month's worth of content. And then one day you can sit down with someone like Brandon, or you can do it yourself in front of a camera, and pretend like you're asking yourself 1 or 2 questions and answer those questions directly, post that on social media, and let those be talking head videos that drive traffic to your page.
So you see podcasts as kind of like that middle funnel, kind of like after they see 60 seconds of you, they kind of go into it. Is that how you would play that in the campaign?
I do now. I didn't see it that way before. I thought we could just pull clips out of the podcast and it would be good enough.
Yeah.
Those don't do very well on social media because 9 times out of 10, unless you talk like I do at 1.5 speed naturally,
right,
people cannot land the plane and we can't grab good one-liners out of them.
Right.
So unless the host is a bit scripted and can get the good question out quickly and the answer from the guest can be like clipped out in under a minute, you're probably not going to get a good reel out of it. And unless there's some sort of hook that you pre-recorded to go with it, you're probably not going to go viral. And so therein lies only, 500 random views see your clip. And if we're on Instagram, we're just scrolling. We're not stopping to be like, oh my God, tell me more.
Right.
So you do need to then get on stories and talk about the episode. So what my kind of playbook looks like for the month and the week is, let's say my episodes drop every Friday.
Right.
I have a coin, fuck yeah, Friday, excuse my language. So every Friday on the treadmill or whatever I'm doing first thing in the morning, I listen back to that episode. I get caught up on it because I probably batched it a few weeks prior and I probably don't remember exactly what we said. I can read the show descriptions, right? Because we put those out that day, but I go and I listen to it in real time in the energy. And then right after my workout, I'm all fired up. I'll get on stories and I'll talk about what the episode was about. I'll talk about who needs to hear it, who it's for, and why so-and-so should listen. Then I also specifically will say, this is not for so-and-so. Because if you're a mom who is not in the entrepreneurial space, you don't want to listen to today's episode per se, but maybe it is only for moms because I'm also a mom and I talk about my kid and the struggles of being a single parent. So maybe the episode's for people who have children or who have friends who have kids that are going through the same thing. I try to be as specific as I can on the stories so that at least my followers can feel connected to me, understand, hey, this is for me or it's not.
Right.
And then I also say there's 349 other episodes. If today's didn't hit home for you, like go listen to those ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you get to a point with the cadence of your episodes, it's the energy of which you talk about each episode. It's not just about posting it on Fridays and hoping that people will get it.
Right. You gotta. There is a strategy that needs to be done, and I've gone to a lot of like creator like events, like some of these big ones like VidCon, where a lot of creators like every single one of those, they make the content or the podcast look easy because they know the strategy and they have the skill sets to do that. Like you said, sometimes. We call it pacing, and kind of like what we do is like when you're talking at that certain speed, you got that energy, you got the up and down tonality, you got that stop, you got to emphasize that. You got what is the pace of this video? The way of like, if you're making music, you got to know what the tempo is, right? You got to you can't be very slow and very, it just different, especially when you wanted to succeed on these like platforms and stuff like that. And you brought up a really great point as the host. If you want to be able to pull clips of it, you got to know how to frame it in a way that it'll be punchy enough that it would be able to be cut out. At least that's kind of how I think about it on some of these questions. Like, it could take me 3 sentences to explain a question, but I got to explain it in like 10 seconds, maybe even less, like 5. And how can I get the most answers out of you? So it's interesting to see how you do how your brain works when it comes to that. And here's my next question when it comes to that. I feel like there's a debate in the space whether to do short podcasts or this extra long podcast, right? I've watched the ones that are like 15, 20 minutes, and I've also watched the ones that are like 3 hours long with Kevin O'Leary, right? And I still listen to that whole thing.
Yeah.
What would you say is like, let's say for somebody that wants to get started, do you recommend them going long or super short? What are your thoughts on that?
So that is part of the course when I put people through. I'm like, what is the like cadence of your show going to look like? And I think being open to it being a little bit of everything is great. Obviously, you want to test your audience. What do they like? So if you have a good social media following, you can pull them and ask. If you are good at landing the plane and you can get your thought out in 15 to 20 minutes, do it. Do it short and sweet. People like short and sweet because guess what? Then they can go listen to a second episode. So not only are you getting 1 download, you're getting 2, 3. So I look at it like that. But also, I think having a variety in your show is great. When you have a good guest on and you're spending the time to be in studio like this, you want to get as much juice out of it as possible. If we get to talking and we hit an hour, Brandon might be like, yo, let's do a 2-part. So like we cut that, we end on a good note, we move into another topic, we do a second part. I've gotten other hosts to get me in 2 episodes versus 1.
Right.
Right. Because I engage on something, we go deep, deep, deep. And then she's like, wow. And then she's like, I didn't even get to ask you these other questions. I'm like, why don't you make this a 2-part? So as a guest, I just got myself 2 episodes on somebody's show. Like that's a strategy that I've started to use because I know that I can talk about more than one thing. And once people dig into my story, you know, we can keep going. I'm already there. You've already got the camera going. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Same with online. When you have someone virtual, if you have a guest on, figure out what their hard stop time is. If they only have an hour for you, be respectful, keep it concise, have them back on if it was so juicy and you want to continue the conversation with the topic that they said that was maybe outside of what you originally thought you wanted to talk about. Yeah. I've had a few people come back on my show several times because they evolve. I evolve. We grow together. 2-3 years later, I have them back on. They've got a new offer. They just launched a book. You know, I feel like I know them. I feel like I can promote for them. But I feel like the short episodes always do really well if you can land the plane. That episode will get pushed up in, say, Spotify or somewhere if you reverse engineer how you build that episode out. So we all have chat now, and I'm not saying that everybody needs to quote unquote script everything, but having like an outline bullet print of what you're going to talk about is key for you to have clear, concise, shorter episodes. So if you say to chat, I want to create a podcast episode, this is how I'll give you guys my script. Help me create a 10-minute podcast episode where we talk about the 3 ways to launch your podcast in under 2 weeks or whatever. I give very specific prompt cues. It'll shoot me out like a topic, bullet point. If I want to go into the meat of that, I can ask it to give me more context. But to me, that's usually enough to riff off of. So I throw that up, I open up Riverside, I hit record, I start to riff on that. The keywords are already in there. I also will prompt it to say, please make sure this is filled with keywords. Also, what do you think the title of this podcast episode should be? So then I can say the title in the episode several times so that when we go to write the show notes, it's in there. I can turn the show notes into a blog post that then gets traffic on my website that already has the keywords in there. And you can kind of stuff more keywords in there as you write your blog post, as you guys know. But there's a lot of ways to get strategic on that. So I think the answer to your question, long story long, do a variety of both. But then also when you're first starting out, don't overwhelm yourself. How do you like to listen to podcasts? That's how I always ask my clients. Do I like long form or do I like really short ones?
Right.
Am I a mom that only has 10 minutes to drive to the park and that's the only time I get to listen? Or is this like my hour-long walk every morning and I want like someone to get into the juice? I want to know the details. Don't leave out a single thing. You know, some people want the details. I'm a details person. I had a couple podcasts over the years that they were like my go-to for specific things. My friend Keisha, she had to Empower Her podcast. She was like the hype girl, get up girl. She had great tone. She was always like 6 cups of coffee in. And she was who I would turn on when I felt like I wanted to quit. You know, that's who I would listen to. My friend Lori Harder, she is such a successful entrepreneur, but she struggles with overwhelm and anxiety and depression. So she would talk about how hard shit is sometimes and what she had to do that day just to get out of bed to make moves. And I'm like, sometimes I got to hear that. So I know I'm not alone. Right. And then there's people like her husband who are all about business and like, get your head out of your ass and move. Yeah. You're not moving quick enough. Yeah. You know, then you listen to other people who like, what do you like to listen to? And that usually will be the audience you attract because if you're liking it, they're going to like it if they like you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I love taking context of like, what do you like to listen to? And you gotta like, see it just start that way because you're already familiar with that style and that format, right? I drive to LA like once or twice a month, or even Orange County 3 times a month sometimes, and those are where I listen to all of my hour-long podcasts. Yeah, and I was like, cool, we'll let the car ride, and then we're just gonna be in the best, and you know, just like listening to the whole thing. But you brought up a good point there because I feel like a lot of people ask me that questions as well, and I think figuring out where you'd feel most comfortable in the format that you're already comfortable in to start.
Yeah.
What about when it comes to having guests or solo? What are your thoughts on that?
I think ultimately most people who are not comfortable creating content yet love the interview style because it takes the pressure off of them. Right. They get to just prep a little bit, ask a few questions. You're usually in receive mode as the host, right? You get to really you're really into the conversation. You're encouraging the guest to talk. You want to learn more. You're genuinely interested. So everybody loves to hear themselves talk, right? So anytime that we're gifted a platform and a stage to share what we know, like people usually go off. It's great. Yeah. But when it comes to like deciding that, if you have something that you are driving traffic to, you've got a book out, you're creating a course, you've got a program, you've got strong thought leadership, you want to be known for something, making sure that your audience knows more about you than they do about the potential guests you have on will propel you and your show 10 times faster. Because if someone found your show, they want to know more about you. They're going to go follow you on social. They're going to check out your website. They're going to see what your offer is. All of that's going to move the needle quicker for you. I realized 200 plus episodes in that I was essentially paying to promote so many other people's stuff because I wasn't quite comfortable yet speaking my own thoughts. I didn't have a ton of stuff that I was driving traffic to in the beginning because I still own the salon and I didn't need the podcast to make me money yet, I guess, is how I looked at it. Looking back, that was kind of stupid, but like we all learn the hard way and that's why now I teach it so you don't have to learn it the hard way.
Right.
But, when people come to me with that question, it's like you can do both, but once you start to get comfortable, I would say go solo. If you can do both, I would do a solo one day a week and then a guest another day a week and put 2 episodes out a week. You can create the solos to be a little bit shorter. I'm always really fired up after I do a guest interview.
Yeah.
So then I like to record my solo afterwards because then I'm in like Brandon's energy and you probably said something that's going to get me like excited to talk more about it.
Interesting.
And or I'll just add more if I didn't have a chance to like really be a part of the conversation because you had so much good shit to say that I'll then be like, this is part 2 of like Brandon's episode and I felt really strongly when he said this and this is how I think it'll work for you. And it helps me create more content that I didn't have to think about on my own.
That's genius.
And then it goes in succession with the week or the theme. You can talk about it more holistically as a marketing, piece. So there's a lot of cool, fun ways to do it. Like my buddy Matt, he only does solo episodes and it's done wonders for him. He really can follow the data. He's a super data tracker and he's like, this content's doing well, but he's partnering that with a Substack. So he's got a paid Substack subscription where if you want more juicy content, some of it's like gatekept now, you got to pay and you got to pay.
What is Substack, by the way?
Oh, I didn't know either. So Substack is a paid writing platform. So there's free and then there's different tiers that you can charge people to be into your Substack world. So it's a place you can also host a podcast on there, but then they own your podcast, I think. So he does his podcast elsewhere. There's lots of different distribution platforms you can use. They're all paid, but it's like you post the podcast on one platform and then it goes everywhere. So Spotify now offers this as well. But I think for Matt specifically, he's such a great writer. And he loves to write out his content. So he took what he already loved doing for the podcast episodes and then that separate clips that he was making, like I told you guys about, and turned it into writing, then realized people started asking him, how do you get so organized with your content? So he got into Notion and creating Notion templates and then frameworks for how he writes out his episodes. And then he's like, well, I can teach you guys how to write a great newsletter based off my frameworks. And so now he's like a writing machine. And so he teaches people and he has like a writing membership now through Substack.
Interesting.
All based off of like what people started to ask him for, what he was really interested in, what he loved doing. So now he's truly a writer. He still doesn't have a book out, but he has an amazing newsletter that goes out daily. He's got 5 or 6 episodes that drop. So I mean, talk about content.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Just wild.
Yeah. Have you heard of clip farming?
No.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Clip farming. No.
Yes. So that's something that we've been playing around with. Well, we haven't been playing around fully, but something that we're looking into where it's, kind of like talking about the marketing of the podcast, right?
Wait, let me guess. Is it where you go farm different clips from different people?
Kind of, almost. But the model is very interesting. So there's, the people like, I Show Speed, if you ever know I Show Speed.
No.
Like there's one of the biggest live streamer.
Different language.
Different worlds, but there's these creators and Direct CEO does it, Joe Rogan does it, but nowadays I was gonna ask you if you knew about it, but apparently you did. But I think it's gonna be really cool.
Teach me something.
Where traditionally, if we wanted to create clips out of a podcast or a live stream or a webinar, whatever, like we are the one. We have our team look into it, or your team look into it, and you pick out which parts you want to take out and stuff like that.
From your own episode.
From your own episode, right? Whereas some of these creators, like the I Show Speed of the world, or I know Andrew Tate did that, and there's other people like Joe Rogan. They basically, there's these platforms, things like WAP, for example, where you almost like create a competition for whoever can get the most views for your clips. So the way it works is like you go to platforms like WAP, there's other ones out there, and you create like a brief that's like, hey, this is my episode. Feel free to, here's the raw assets of this episode, whether it's a live stream, whether it's a podcast, YouTube video, anything, and be like, here's some guidelines on how I want you to edit it. Maybe like when you post it, I want you to have like watch the full episode on my Spotify, and for every 10,000 views, you will get awarded $5. And you now open this up floodgate to the world.
What?
And let them create their own, almost like their own page, because they can create their own page. Let's say they have like the Brand Playbook page and stuff like that. And they just keep cutting out from my raw footage and just try whatever like will go viral. And as long as I gave them the guideline, maybe like, hey, on the captions, lead back to like my Spotify or my YouTube or whatever it is. And let's say somebody can get, 1 million views, and you just pay them from that like $5 for whatever.
My brain is exploding right now. That's amazing.
So these are like these new, I mean, not really that new, but I knew it's newer in this space that people are doing this. So instead of, you're almost syndicating the actual marketing for it, because now it's not all on your team. Like, yeah, your team can still have your own clips or preferred clips, but these people from everywhere across the world can compete and really create their own pages, get viral, and drive traffic to your stuff.
And you don't have to pay them until things go viral, or do you have to pay to be a member of it, or how does that work?
It depends on your agreement, right?
Okay.
And so it's like one of those, like from...
Because if they're good, they probably charge.
Well, from the perspective of the editor, they're the one in control of whether or not they want to do that project. So you got to make your project competitive, right? Let's say like, if you know how to entertain, you be funny, and you have a lot of clippable moments, right? You might want to be like, okay, your threshold, like every 1 million views, you give them $100, right? If you're like, oh, this is going to be a viral and stuff like that, right? Or if it's harder for you you think like it's harder for you to succeed, or maybe you're not be as entertaining and stuff like that, you want to make your offer more competitive. So maybe like every 5,000 views, you want to give them $10 or something like that. It's because it's up to them to bid or compete in your own projects and stuff like that.
If you guys are listening to this podcast episode right now, we need to know you need to like screenshot this and DM and let me know if you already knew about this and if you're going to use it, because I'm sending 350 episodes out tomorrow.
Yeah.
What? That's crazy.
So it's a really cool new model that
it's like Fiverr. Like when you put work out there, you ask for a job and people like bid you almost on what they can do.
So it's almost like you're risking, like the risk is like evenly spread, because if they know that they're a good clipper, so that's now a term. Like if you know how to clip good footage that knows how to go viral, you'll technically get more money.
Right.
Right. Whereas you, as the producer of the content, you're rewarding these people who can actually get you a lot of views on the clips. It works with a lot of, again, live stream, iShow Speed does it. A lot of these creators, if you ever seen those, if you ever seen like David Goggins edits, right? David Goggins or like Jordan Peterson or any of these people, or Mel Robbins, sometimes they have like, it's not their page, but it's like a quote from them, or maybe you had like this super instrumental cinematic footage and stuff like that, right? But you're like, this is not from Mel Robbins, this is not from David Goggins. But that's because somebody's like, it's clipping the original footage and they're uploading, and that's how they're getting paid. And
you can give them the stipulation that they have to drive traffic back to your episode.
You can give the stipulations up to you. So that's kind of,
because otherwise you'd never even know if that clip went viral if they took it.
Exactly. And the good thing from their end as well is like when they start that page, if that page got monetized, that's their own money plus as well. So it's like they get rewarded more. The editors or clippers, as you'd call it. So it's a really, really new space. I think it really became a thing like this year, like I'd say like March, and people started talking about it. But a lot of the bigger creators have used that. Maybe something that's interesting.
I wonder if the girl who stole all of my stuff off my page recently was trying to do that. I had somebody for the first time, I wouldn't call her a hater because there was no negativity, but somebody literally started taking all of my stuff off my Instagram page and reposting it and tagging me in it. And then like putting my podcast thing, pictures of my son. At first I was a little like, what the hell is going on? Mm-hmm. I reached out, sent a message. I was like, hey, thank you so much for tagging. I went with the positive approach rather than like trying to be a hater. Because I'm like, do they have access to my account? Are they just screen sharing? How are they grabbing the clips? Yeah. Well, there's something on your page that you can, obviously block that from happening. Yeah. But at this point, she had 50, 60, 70 posts on there. And then all of a sudden it stopped. But when I scrolled all the way to the bottom, she had been posting somebody else's stuff for a while too. Yeah. So I have no idea who she was, where she came from, why she was doing it. She didn't try to get money out of me. Who knows? Maybe she was just using my content to The page had like 80 or 90,000 followers.
Yeah.
I'm like, can you help me grow? Because I'm like,
right. So exactly. So it's a very interesting way to kind of do it, right? Because like if you have a YouTube video, you just throw, hey, make clips out of these videos, and they'll post it as long as you put the stipulation that it drives like traffic into the YouTube channel.
All right, cool.
It would work. Yeah. Huh. But could be something interesting there.
I'm definitely gonna look into that. Yes.
Yeah. Where do you think the space is going? So what I'm thinking about, I use a lot of AI as well. It's like we're doing all of our operations, right? And you're in the podcasting space. There's things like Notebook LM, all that different, for those who don't know, Notebook LM is like, they claim that you can make your own podcast that way, right? Or you have 11 Labs, HeyGen, all this stuff. Where do you see the world is going when it comes to podcasts? Like, how can you still succeed in this next, let's say, like year or so?
I recently was at a dinner party, and I was invited by a good friend in Beverly Hills who was hosting a dinner for a friend who was having a book launch. And so I was meeting all these women, and I met this older woman, very poised, very, very Beverly Hills. And we started talking about our shows. And she's been on TV for years. She has a YouTube channel. And she was a little dry, but very direct, polite. I was like, she doesn't want to be here. But I usually love those type of people. So I started asking her questions. She asked me about my podcast. Then she looks me square in the face and she goes, how many countries is your podcast in? And I was like, a lot. I don't know specifically because I can see on the back end of my distribution, which is I use Podbean. But it was like a question she looked at me that I should have known. And so, one, I felt like, shit, I should know this. Two, I was like, where's she going with this question? Then she goes, I have a Spanish-speaking channel on YouTube and I don't speak Spanish. It was almost like a, dick swinging contest where she was like, I have this, what do you have? And I was like, oh, I don't have that. I'm like, so do you speak Spanish? She says, no. I said, you have a over $1 million downloaded show on YouTube of you speaking in Spanish that's a TV show. She said, yes. I said, what do you use? She said, HeyGen. She says, I convert all of my YouTube content into Spanish speaking and like I think Japanese. I said, show me the video. Does your mouth match up to this? It was perfect. It looked perfect. And I was blown away. And then I was on a John Asseroff training the other day. Same thing. He pulled up something that was him. It looked a little AI, but if you didn't know him very well, you wouldn't know. He was speaking fluent Spanish as well. So people are using these platforms to take their content and turn it into something that everybody can use. I have a friend who's hard of hearing, and she was like, where are the transcripts for your shows? And I was like, how the hell do I not post the transcripts? What a missed opportunity to reach a bigger audience because I was too ignorant and not wide-eyed enough to realize there are some people who can't listen to a podcast. Like, when you think about all of the micro misses and things that you can capitalize on or forget to capitalize on or not take the time to capitalize on, the strategy for podcasting can be 100x. It's wild.
Right.
And that's what overwhelms a lot of people with podcasting and entrepreneurship is you literally can do anything and everything. So if you've come from corporate where you had a job that you checked off these 10 things and that made you $200,000 a year, that's what you did. And you did that really well. Entrepreneurship, there's like 2 million things you could do every single day twice, and you still would never feel like you're doing enough. So with all that being said, while all these platforms come out, while all of these tools are available, staying true and authentic to your content is important, and it is fun to use ChatGPT, like for the prompts I shared with you on creating an outline for my podcast, but you have to still be genuinely you because people are going to be able to weed that shit out pretty soon. You know, I have a friend, Jim, he's in AI. He created a whole podcast that's not him. He wanted to showcase how you can use AI, but like he has episodes that come out and it's not him, it's his AI. He created these chatbots and he's helped other people create apps where it's like, hey, so-and-so, that's the name of the app. We'll just say, hey, Barbara. So you get to just say in the app, hey, Barbara, I have a question about this when it comes to marketing. And her chat will answer it for you, her GPT. And I think it's because you're able to input all of the content you've ever created. She had 2 books. She's spoken on several thousand stages. She had hours and hours of content. They just poured that all into that and created an app that she now charges $19.99 a month for. And she calls it her back pocket coaching.
Wow.
It's amazing what we can create when you start to create enough content out there in the world. And so if you are interested in being all over the world in different countries, you can use a platform like HeyGen. And the girl who actually ran, she was one of the CEO or something. She was actually at the party too. And she heard us say HeyGen. She came over. She goes, that's one of my accounts. And I'm like, So glad I drove 3 hours to this Beverly Hills dinner that I thought was just going to be a book launch, like foo-foo, grab some picture dinner. I learned so much, and I got schooled by this older lady who was basically like, bitch slap checked me. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going home right now. And I still haven't done it, but this is a great reminder because sometimes we only have enough bandwidth, right? So I just want to remind any of you who are like, holy crap, now I have to go do 97 more things in my business. I just can't. Don't let that stop you. Keep doing whatever it is that you can do at the level you're doing it. If you can start to add more things on, awesome. If you can start to outsource or build a team or hire people to help you, do that. You know, it's like that's when you're ready to take things to the next level, or you finally start monetizing and you've got a little extra income so that you can, you know, rob Peter to pay Paul over here. That's where you'll start to see bigger upticks in your downloads and your marketing, having like a real ROI, not just throwing some spaghetti at the wall. You can't just try something once or twice and hope it works, because it's probably not going to work the first time. It's like running ads. You got to test things.
Right.
So same with, do people in the Spanish-speaking country want to hear from Jessica Burgio? I don't know. Probably. I'm spicy, so they probably like me. I probably go viral over there. That's why I'm a little too much over here. I don't know. But it's funny when you ask that question because there's so many of the ones you said I don't even know about. So that's why I follow people like my buddy Jim. His name's Jim Carter. He's got a whole AI basically community where every Wednesday he teaches live on all of the different AI platforms. That's his literal job, is to go investigate these. He has a newsletter where he talks about this. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt, because I know this is all very like fire hose-ish to a lot of us. We're like, whoa, I don't even know which one to pick or where to start. Start with where you're at and like find people who know one platform, get into it, see if you like it. Or you can keep it simple. Simple sells. You know, when you're clear and you have clarity, you will find your people too. You don't have to do all the things.
Right.
Like find yourself in there somewhere, whatever feels comfortable, but a little stretchy.
Right. Yeah. I like to call it like the rule of 3. That way, like every day, just do 3 things to move things forward. Like that's it. You don't need to like try out like 15 different things.
Right.
You know, 3 things. You
3
know
things.
What I mean?
That's good.
Some
don't
simple.
overwhelm.
Yeah. Don't overwhelm it. Right. Because I think nowadays we're living in such an age where it's just so fast. Everything just changes and it's so hard to keep up. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. Right. And can stress us out. But yeah, totally. Well, honestly, this conversation has been going amazing, I think. It's been like, I've learned so much from you when it comes to all these things. And I usually like to leave off with this one question where if you say with all of your experience that you've had throughout in all of your life, and you were going to get your memory wiped tomorrow, and you can only remember one thing, and, you know, whether that is something that you tell yourself or you tell the world, what would that be?
Well, I am a mom, so I would definitely, like, my kid's almost 14 and he's going through it right now. And I think just that to slow down and to be more open, you know, to exploring what is possible versus being so rigid in what you think you're supposed to be doing. Just stay open. Stay open, be curious, always be a student. That applies to parents, that applies to kids, that applies to anybody who easily gets overwhelmed, is just go back to being present and put yourself in the student position versus I know everything, I got this. Like reverse that and be like, I'm open to receive however that needs to be. And I'm just going to be present in the moment rather than stressing about what could be, what had happened. Like come back to the center and just refocus. That was a very long-winded answer, but hopefully it was helpful.
I love that. Jessica, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. See you guys all soon. Bye.